I'm on the test server to show you guys the brand new legendary scout mech here, Blizzfrost. This thing looks like it has some great potential, so let's go check it out in some battles. This thing is a new legendary scout mech, which legendary scouts tend to be the strongest mechs in the game, so this thing definitely has some potential. But let's try the ability. The first thing we get when we activate our ability is a 20% speed boost. So the base speed is 29 kilometers an hour, which is as fast as any of the other fastest scout mechs, so we just get a little bit of a speed boost there. It's not a dash or anything, but it's still very nice to get. We also have a radius, as you can see, so once one of these enemies get close, I can show you what we can hit them with. This is an offensive-based ability. Once they get within 30 meters, we can activate this radius on them, and it applies a brand new status effect. It's kind of like EMP, but instead of, fully locking them down, all it is they can't move. So they can no longer move. They're locked into that one position. And you also can't use abilities that are like the lace wing jump or the surge dash, I assume. Those are, it says movement-based abilities. You can't use movement-based abilities to escape, right? So there's no way to escape. Obviously, of course, it's countered by Eclipse, because nothing should ever counter Eclipse. Why would we ever add anything to the game that counters something? That would be silly, right? But, yeah, Eclipse, obviously, since there's a status effect, it doesn't do anything against Eclipse. It also deals a bit of damage, which isn't very important, but it deals, like, I think 50,000 damage at max level, which is, I mean, that's not bad ability damage, but ability damage in general is pretty irrelevant. So there you can see, we can hit all these guys, because we do have a really big radius. This is the same radius, basically, like a Zephyr, except it doesn't go through walls. So this really feels like it's kind of a toned-down version of EMP. It doesn't go through walls. It also, it also, like, doesn't fully lock them down. They can still fight back, which feels a lot better. If you're getting hit by an EMP, it's just like, all right, and I'm dead, right? You can't do anything. But if you're hit by this thing, you can still fight back, right? It's not nearly as OP. So this kind of feels like a more balanced version, a toned-down version of an EMP effect, because EMP is just too strong, really. There we missed. You do often sometimes miss. You've got to be, like, right on the same level as the enemy and have nothing blocking your line of sight for your radius to hit them. So this thing kind of feels like a more balanced, toned-down version of Surge, but it has one more special ability that I haven't mentioned yet. I'll show you once we get closer to some enemies. I will say the design of this mech is pretty cool. The speed boost is nice too. You can see here our speed is pretty good with that speed boost. Obviously, again, not a dash, but it's basically like Eclipse there. So let's find an enemy. So the one last thing you get with this ability is resistance. So in that way, it's kind of like Nomad, right? When we activate our ability, we get a 50% damage resistance, but if there's two enemies within the radius like this, I now have a 75% damage resistance. If there's only one enemy in the radius, I get 62.5%. So it adds 12.5% per enemy within the radius, stacking up to two enemies. So 75% damage resistance with two enemies in your radius is the second highest resistance in the game. It's higher than Nomad. Nomad's is 60%. So if you have one enemy in the radius, it's basically like Nomad's. If you have two just like this, then I am significantly higher than Nomad's with the same HP as Nomad. So I'm able to tank so much damage right there. I'm just taking that damage even though I'm a low HP scout. It's very useful and allows you to turn into a tank when you need to be tanky. I say that, but as you can see, right, I'm going down fairly quickly here. It's not like I'm some crazy tank like Parasite or Deathwalker or anything like that. Of course, like, this is kind of like Vortex where we activate speed boost and resistance at the same time. But yeah, I mean, will this thing actually be good? That's the real question. Of course, we're wondering. And right now, it's kind of hard to tell because we're in a fragile time in the game where everything is getting buffed and nerfed. As far as we can tell, it seems like Surge is definitely going to get a nerf, right? The devs were saying that it's probably going to get a nerf, right? There's an interview basically where a dev said that, so we can pretty safely assume Surge is going to get nerfed. It also needs one, right? It's one of those strongest mechs in the game. But we kind of just have to wait and see what that nerf is going to be. As of recording this video, I have no idea what it's going to be, so like I can't really predict, will this be better than Surge? Will this be the new Surge? And that's not what I want it to be. I want it to be kind of an alternate version of Surge. And I think that's what they're trying to do. I hope that's what they're trying to do with a new stats effect, right? That kind of means, it's not, okay, well, this thing has EMP, and then Surge is going to get nerfed, and now Surge is useless. EMP is the strongest effect in the game, and there's hardly ever going to be a stronger one. I mean, it is just the strongest type of effect there could be. It's just a full lockdown to your enemies, right? And it's crazy. And on a dash mech, it's just ridiculous. So here I can lock this guy down so I don't have to worry about him peeking at me, right? It's very nice, right? But it's not as OP as EMP. To trade off for that, though, we're having we're much tankier than Surge's, right? So the question is, will Surge's, like, dash and stun be reduced so it's not able to just kill everything? Or if it's left too strong, this thing probably won't be that good, right? It has that tankiness, but Nomad is better with that because it has a dash. The dash mechanic is so strong within the game, so it's really going to be hard for this guy to compete. Obviously, Eclipse is the one scout that's able to, doesn't need, like, a super mobility ability, right? Like, we have the jump for Lacewing and then the dashes for Surge and Nomad. But, Eclipse doesn't need insane mobility. It has good mobility, but it doesn't have like a crazy one like those guys do, just because it ignores all effects, right? Which it basically, ignores all the dangerous effects within the game, which is the reason it's strong. It's not because it's so fast or anything like that, right? It's fast enough to use revokers, which is good for it, but it's not like it would be insane without its ability removing debuffs. So yeah, for now I would say it's kind of hard to tell. This thing definitely seems like it has the potential to be meta, and it's kind of going to be a cross between some of the legendary scouts we have right now. And assuming those get appropriate nerfs that nerf them down to a more reasonable level, I think this thing will be able to compete. But we're going to have to wait and see. Now, is this a good addition to the game? As far as I can tell right now. If bots have this, it shouldn't be too annoying, which is good. That's always something I consider. Is this a unique addition, right? Again, it's kind of built off of old things, but I think it is fairly unique, right? It feels like a more balanced, toned-down version of those older scout mechs, right? We have a bit of a speed boost. We do have a huge resistance. That's its strongest thing, but being a scout, it has such low HP. If it's going to compete in any, brawling, right? If it's not solely an ambusher, it's going to have some kind of way to, be tanky or something, right? So I think that works pretty well, and the resistance is very high, but again, like you've seen, I can die very easily here. Like right here, I might just go down to one dude, just because, like, if I'm not in my ability, and especially when I don't, like, hit people with my radius to get more resistance, like, even then, I'm going to take, like, pretty high damage, right? Again, I only have less than 200,000 base HP, which is very low for any legendary mech. It's about the second or third lowest HP stat that there ever is for a legendary. So, it's not like this thing is insanely tanky, except during its ability. I will say the cycle time on this mech is really, really good. I think it's a 7-second cooldown with a 5-second duration. Like, we're going to go down just to these pods here. I barely lived only because I got my resistance off in time, right? But yeah, the duration is 5 seconds, the cooldown is 7, which is really good. For a meta mech, you want to be able to be active like that, and because I refresh my ability so quickly, it means I'm able to stay in the fight or get back in a fight much, much quicker. It's really important that Plarium doesn't make the new mech too overpowered, especially when we're getting these nerfs. That would be a bad look, but we want it to be on the same level, or at least close to the same level as Surge, Eclipse, and Nomad, right? We want to diversify the meta, and one way that Plarium can do that is by adding new strong mechs, which this guy feels like he certainly has potential to be very strong. Again, we're going to have to wait and see. As with everything on the test server, we're just playing against bots, so it's, not possible to tell entirely, but, I'm hoping that this thing will be strong. I think it's cool. I think it's fairly unique. They've kind of, changed up things, especially because it's a new status effect. People were kind of hoping that this would stop Eclipse stop Eclipse. Basically, it would have a radius, and then it wouldn't be a status effect, so it would actually hit Eclipse and be a counter to Eclipse. That's one thing we still kind of need, but it also depends. Again, how much will Eclipse get nerfed? We don't know, right? Hopefully the Eclipse nerf makes it so it's useful. Eclipse needs to be there to counter things like Hemlock. Hemlock also got nerfed, but things like Hemlock that, daze you from long range, how are you supposed to counter that? And Eclipse is a very, very good option to counter a Hemlock from long range, right? You need that in the game. It's a necessary, almost evil, right? You have to have that. But when it's overtuned to the extent it is right now, it just becomes too strong. So this guy kind of serves as, a brawler, and I really think this guy's more of an ambusher. Like, Surge is an ambusher, but I don't know if it's quite an ambush when I can ambush them, quote-unquote, from, 45 meters away plus a 15-meter radius or whatever, insane dash distances with an implant as well. Like, it's not really an ambush at that point. So overall, this mech seems like a pretty good addition. I'm hoping that it will be reasonably powerful. Here's some of the other stats in case you wanted to check. 20% speed boost, 50% resistance, 12.5% for the first 1 and 2 enemies in the radius, 50,000 damage, and there's the ability cycle. It's very, very quick to cycle, 29 kilometers an hour, and it's the same HP as Nomad. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, drop a like, subscribe if you want to see more videos reviewing things on the test server like this. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.